It turns out we've been lied to. There is no such thing as a dopamine hit. In this video, we will be exploring some of the lesser known brain science secrets behind motivation and how it really works. I will be talking about dopamine, the main neurotransmitter involved in human motivation. I'll be sharing what dopamine is, how it influences our motivation levels, things that decrease our dopamine levels, as well as different ways you can use to increase your dopamine levels for more motivation. I'm Dr. Wong, a medical doctor based in London, UK, and the purpose of this channel is to help you improve your brain health and gain a deeper understanding of how the human brain works. So if you want to become a brain trainer, hit that subscribe button right now. Anyway, let's get into the video. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which is a chemical message that is sent through our neurons or brain cells. Dopamine plays some really important roles in the human body. It's important for movement, so very low levels of dopamine can lead to Parkinson's disease. It's important for our learning and memory processing. It's important for our pleasure-pain balance, and obviously important for our motivation. Dopamine has been found not only in humans but many other animals, including worms. So there were actually studies done to extract dopamine from worm brains. But today we are mainly going to be focusing on dopamine's role in our motivation levels. It turns out we've been lied to. There is no such thing as a dopamine hit. Stick around for the next session to find out why. So how does dopamine really work? Well, dopamine is released from a part of the brain called the substantia nigra. And it turns out we have tonic and phasic releases of dopamine, meaning long, slow release and fast release levels of dopamine. So we have a baseline level of dopamine in our brain, and this affects how we generally feel. But we also get fast releases of dopamine when we hit a new achievement or eat certain foods. High levels of dopamine are seen in highly driven and motivated people, and low levels of dopamine are seen in patients with depression. Low levels of dopamine causes a lack of enjoyment from doing certain activities that you would usually enjoy. And this is what is known as anhedonia, which is a medical term and one of the main symptoms of depression. It's been discovered that dopamine works through what are called G protein coupled receptors. Without getting too scientific, this is basically a very slow process. So we've been lied to about dopamine hits because they don't really exist. Dopamine has a very gradual action, and its effects tend to last minutes and even up to hours. Dopamine has a very close relationship to two other neurotransmitters. The first being serotonin and the other being adrenaline or norepinephrine. So they're usually released in combination with each other. And so if you've ever felt like really motivated, pumped up after an event or watching a video, then that's a combination of adrenaline or norepinephrine plus dopamine. So what are some things that can reduce our dopamine levels? Well, the first important one of note is what's known as postpartum depression, or depressive symptoms or feeling of low mood after giving birth. This is very common because what often happens after giving birth is you get a very sharp decline in dopamine levels, and this can lead to things like depression and lack of motivation and meaning. The other thing that can drop overall dopamine levels is seen in addiction, so things like gambling and drugs. So when people with an addiction do a certain action such as gamble or take drugs, they do get an initial spike in dopamine. But what that does is it completely depletes your brain of all its dopamine levels because it's all been released and used up. So after the initial high, you get an overall drop in dopamine. And this difference between a low level of dopamine and that initial high actually causes a high motivation for these people to carry on these addictive behaviors. So dopamine can have good and bad effects depending on how we choose to use it. So what are some ways we can use to increase overall dopamine levels in our brain for more motivation? Well, the first is testosterone, because testosterone is a hormone which stimulates the release of dopamine in our brain and stimulates our body to produce more of it. So ways we can increase testosterone is weightlifting, intermittent fasting, as well as having a low body fat, because a lower body fat is linked to higher testosterone levels. The second is chocolate. Now, chocolate has been shown in studies to increase our dopamine levels by 1.5 times. Now, I'm not recommending you to binge eat on chocolate, but having some dark chocolate now and again won't hurt your dopamine levels. The third is sex. Sex has been shown in studies to double the amount of dopamine in the human brain. The fourth is doing exercise that you personally enjoy. The key here is that it must be something that you personally enjoy, because in studies it was shown that if the person didn't enjoy the exercise, that dopamine levels weren't really affected. So picking something that you enjoy can help to increase your dopamine levels, which in turn increases your motivation to carry on doing the healthy habit. The fifth is sunlight and vitamin D. These have been shown in studies to increase dopamine levels in our brain. Number 6 is good quality sleep, because dopamine levels are replenished and restored during sleep. So getting good quality sleep is so important for our dopamine levels, and if you want to learn how to improve your sleep quality, then I'll leave a card up here so you can watch that later. Number 7 is through food. Tyrosine is an amino acid or a protein structure that we can get in our diet. And this is found in foods like almonds, bananas, avocados, eggs, beans, fish, and chicken, as well as ginseng. So getting enough tyrosine in our diet can increase our overall dopamine levels. Number 7 is a regular gratitude practice. This helps to increase overall dopamine levels in our brain, and I recommend people to do a daily gratitude journal, whether you write it down privately or something you're grateful for every single day. And this actually tricks the brain into releasing and increasing the amount of dopamine. Number 9 is acknowledge good behaviors. Now, if you do a to-do list and you start ticking off all these tasks, you actually increase dopamine release in your brain. And what that does over time is to force your brain to increase overall dopamine levels and even increase the baseline. So by acknowledging some of your good behaviors and rewarding yourself with some dopamine release, that can help to increase your overall dopamine levels. So those are some lesser known brain science secrets behind motivation and dopamine and how it really works. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. Subscribe for more brain related content and set the notification bell to all so you don't miss out on any future videos, and YouTube will put it on your lovely homepage. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to end this video with a quote. Motivation is what starts the fire. Discipline is what keeps the fire going. Take care everyone. I will see you guys in the next video.